slowly ahead before deciding to shoot Bhagavatam, which is written among us. One should offer respect to the instances of the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Sri Vyasdevi, the author. Nashtaprayeshu Bhagaveshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regular attendance in the class of Bhagavatam and by regular service to the order of devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is completely destroyed, and the loving service on the personality of God, which leads to it to the songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnanajnanasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. My spiritual master, open my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Hare Krishna everyone. So today we will be reading from Canto 4, Chapter 28, Text 28 till Text 15. From 28 till 50. No, we will decide verse by verse. From 28 till Text 50.
Chapter 20. Okay, yeah, text 20. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
Okay. So,
Text 28. King Durgam gave up his body while remembering his wife, and consequently, in his next life, he became very beautiful and well-situated woman. He took his next birth as the daughter of King Vidarbha in the very house of the king.
It was fixed that Vidarbha, the daughter of King Vidarbha, was to be married to a very powerful man, Malya Bhaja, an inhabitant of Andhra country. After conquering other princes, he married the daughter of King Vidarbha.
King Malaya Raja fathered one daughter who had very black eyes. He also had 7 sons who later became rulers of the tract of land known as Dravida. Thus there were 7 kings in that land.
Text 31, my dear King Rachunavar, the son of Malaya Dwaja, gave birth to many thousands and thousands of sons, and all of these have been protecting the entire world up to the end of one Manu's lifespan and even afterward.
The great sage named Agastya married the firstborn daughter of Malidhvaj, the avowed devotee of Lord Krishna. From her, one son was born, whose name was and from him another son was born, whose name was Idmava.
After this, the great Sivuni king Malayavad the Vaj divided his entire kingdom among his sons. Then, in order to worship Lord Krishna with full attention, he went to a solitary place known as Kulakala.
Just as the moonshine follows the moon at night, immediately after King Malayadhwaja departed for Kulachala, his devoted wife, whose eyes were very enchanting, followed him, giving up all homely happiness despite family and children.
In the province of Kulachala, there were rivers and Chandarasa, Tamrabrani and Vatodaka. King Malaya Bhaja used to go to those pious rivers regularly and take his bath there. Thus he purified himself externally and internally. He took his bath and ate bulbs, seeds, leaves, flowers, roots, fruits and grasses and drank water. In this way he underwent severe austerities. Eventually he became very skinny.
Text 37. 7.
Please come.
Through austerity, King Malyadwaja in the body and mind gradually became equal to the dualities of cold and heat and happiness and distress, wind and rain, hunger and thirst, the pleasant and unpleasant. In this way, he conquered all the relativities.
By worshipping, executing austerities, and following the regulative principles, King Maladwaja conquered his senses, his life, and his consciousness. Thus, he fixed everything on the central point of the Supreme Brahman, Krishna.
In this way, he stayed immovable in one place for 100 years by the calculation of the demigods. After this, he developed pure devotional attraction for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and remained fixed in that position.
King Malayadvaya attained perfect knowledge by being able to distinguish the super soul from the individual soul. The individual soul is localized, where the supreme soul is all pervasive. He became perfect in knowledge that the material body is not the soul, but that the soul is the witness of the material body.
In this way, King Malayadwaja attained perfect knowledge because in his pure state he was directly instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By means of such enlightening transcendental knowledge, he could understand everything from all angles of vision.
King Malayadwaja could thus observe that the super soul was sitting by his side, and that he, as the individual soul, was sitting by the side of the super soul. Since both were together, there was no need for separate interests. Thus, he ceased from such activities.
The daughter of King Vidarbha accepted her husband's role as the supreme. She gave up all sensual enjoyment and in complete renunciation followed the principles of her husband, who was so advanced. Thus, she remained engaged in his service.
Text 44. The daughter of King Vidarbha wore old garments, and she was lean and thin because of her vows of austerity. She did not arrange her hair, it became entangled and twisted in locks. Although she remained always near her husband, she was as silent and unagitated as the flame of an undisturbed fire.
The daughter of King Vidarbha continued as usual to serve her husband, who was seated in a steady posture, until she could ascertain that he had passed away from the body.
While she was serving her husband by massaging his legs, she could feel that his feet were no longer warm, and thus could understand that he had already passed from the body. She felt great anxiety upon being left alone. Bereft of the husband's company, she felt exactly as a deer feels upon being separated from its mate.
Being now alone and a widow in that forest, the daughter of Vidarbha began to lament, incessantly shedding tears which soaked her breasts and crying very loudly.
O best of kings, please get up. Get up. Just see this world surrounded by water and infested with rogues and so-called kings. The world is much afraid, and it is your duty to protect.
The most obedient wife thus fell down at the feet of her dead husband and began to cry pitifully in that solitary forest. Thus, tears rolled down from her eyes.
She then prepared a blazing fire with firewood and placed the dead body of her husband upon it. When this was finished, she lamented severely and prepared herself to perish in the fire with her husband.
Okay. Sri Prabhupada ki Jai. So we will take text 28. Can you read please? Tameva manasa grahanam. Bhavu pramotattama. Anantaram vidarbhasya. Rajasinghasya veshmani. Tameva manasa grahanam. Babu
राजसिंहस्य वेश्मनि
तं एव मनसा ग्रहणन्
तं एव मनसा गृह्णान् बहुवा प्रमुदोत्तमा
अनन्तरं विदर्भस्य
अनन्तरं विदर्भस्य
Can you scroll up the screen a little bit further?
Rajasimhasya Vesmani.
राजसिंहस्य वेश्मनि
तामेव मनसा गृह्णन्
तामेव मनसा गृह्णान्
बहुवा प्रमुदोत्तमा
बहुवा प्रमुदोत्तमा
अनन्तरं विदर्भस्य
अनन्तरं विदर्भस्य
राजसिंहस्य वेश्मनि
राजसिंहस्य वेश्मनि
तम एव मनसा गृह्णान्
तमेव मनसा गृह्णान्
बाहुभुः प्रमदोत्तमा
बहुवा प्रमुदोत्तमा
अनन्तरं विदर्भस्य
अनन्तरं विदर्भस्य राजसिंहस्य वेश्मनि
Altogether, Tam,
her
Eva certainly Manasa by the mind, Grihana accepting, Bahuva became Pramada woman, Uttama highly situated, Anantaram after death, Vidarbhasya of Vidarbha, Rajasimhasya of the most powerful king, Veshmani at the house.
translation by Srila Prabhupada. King Puranjana
gave up his body while remembering his wife, and consequently in his next life he became a very beautiful and well-situated woman. He took his next birth as the daughter of King Vidarbha in the very house of the king.
Report, anyone?
Since King Puranjana thought of his wife at the time of death, he attained the body of a woman in his next birth. This verifies the following verse in Bhagavad Gita. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tejati ante kalesvaram tam tam evaiti konteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. When a living entity is accustomed to think of a particular subject matter or become absorbed in a certain kind of thought, he will think of that subject at the time of death. At the time of death, one will think of the subject that has occupied his life while he was awake, lightly sleeping or dreaming, or while he was deeply sleeping. After falling from the association of the Supreme Lord, the living entity thus transmigrates from one bodily form to another according to nature's course until he attains a human form. If he is absorbed in material thoughts and ignorant of spiritual life, and if he does not take shelter under the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, who solves all questions of birth and death, he will become a woman in the next life, especially if he thinks of his wife. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 3:31:1, Karmana Daiva Netrena. A living entity acts piously and impiously, and sometimes in both ways. All actions are taken into account, and the living entity is offered a new body by his superiors. Although King Puranjana was overly attached to his wife, he nonetheless performed many pious fruitive activities. Consequently, although he took the form of a woman, he was given a chance to be the daughter of a powerful king. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 6.41, Prapya Punya Kartam Lokan Ushistva Sastave Samaha Suchi Nam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Bhasto Abhijayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. If a person falls from the path of bhakti yoga, God realization, due to attachment to fruitive activity, philosophical speculation, or mystic yoga, he is given a chance to take birth in a high and rich family. The high authorities appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead thus render justice to the living entity according to the living entity's desires. Although King Puranjana was overly absorbed in the thoughts of his wife and thus became a woman, he took birth in the family of a king due to his previous pious activities. The conclusion is that all our activities are taken into consideration before we are awarded another body. Narad Muni therefore advised Vyasadeva that one should take to Krishna consciousness, devotional service, and abandon all ordinary occupational duties. The advice was also given by Lord Krishna himself. Although a devotee may fall from the path of spiritual consciousness, he will nonetheless attain a human body in the home of a devotee or a rich man. In this way, one can resume his devotional service.
So today we are reading text 28 from Canto 4, chapter 28 itself. So we are reading about King Puranjana. So here it is mentioned that at the time of death he was remembering someone and he became that in his next life. So actually, whatever we do in our life, the main test or the main exam, we could say, is at the time of death. I mean, not particularly death, but when we are under pressure, what do we choose? We choose mode of passion, mode of ignorance, or we choose to stay still in mode of goodness. That is also, I mean, it could be because mrityu or death is not very comfortable. So whenever we are in an uncomfortable situation, what are we thinking? Are we thinking about desires, or are we thinking about something higher than that? So that defines the man's character. So at the time of death, he was remembering his wife. So he became woman in next life. So Krishna here, he says in Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam as well confirms that because we are part and parcel of Lord, and Lord is all free. He can do whatever he desires or whatever he wish for. So similarly, we are also Nityo Nityanam Chetnas Chetnanam. So we also have that freedom to choose. But terms and conditions apply. Freedom to choose, but terms and conditions apply. Either we can fast full day on Ekadashi, or we can fast by grains, or we can fast with water as well. So it is up to us. Or some people, they don't even fast. They might have some reason for it. So we have decision-making power that is given to us by Krishna. So Krishna, if we remember something from this material world, he will make us stay in this material world. He is not doing any type of injustice to us. And if we remember him or the spiritual world, then he will take us back with him where we belong. So here King Puranjana gave up his body while remembering his wife. So in next life he became a very beautiful and well-situated woman because he was remembering her in such a way that she is so well-dressed, charmed, and she has all those beautiful qualities which a man can desire for. So similarly, due to his thought, in modern world we call it manifestation. Like whatever you manifest from your heart, that thing will come to you. So he was imagining as if like she is the most perfect woman in the world, and I'm imagining about my wife. So next birth he became a well-versed, well-educated queen or princess. So it shows that we must choose wisely what we wish for. There is a story in Shastra. It says that there was a villager, a common villager, he used to go to the jungle and he used to chop trees and he used to sell them and he used to make some, for his family. So one sunny afternoon, he was there and, he started chopping the tree and suddenly he saw a huge tree, banyan tree. But he didn't know that that tree is actually a kalpa vraksha, wish fulfilling tree. So under his shadow, he thought, the sun is all, up and it is peak afternoon time. I think let me take some nap now and maybe I will chop it down later. So as soon as he thought that, standing under the shadow of that tree, and the tree was wish fulfilling tree, right? So immediately there was a bed and there was a pillow and he fell asleep on that, he was taking nice rest. He wakes up after like 1 or 2 hours and then he thought, oh, my wife and my home is so far from here. I wish that if I could have a nice hot meal. And the nice hot meal, including, plates and the paraphernalia and all the gulab jamuns and everything was being given to him. And he thought like, oh, this devata, this demigod of the forest is actually liking me. That's why I'm getting all my desires fulfilled. And today is the luckiest day, or I would say luckiest afternoon of my life. So he ate a lot because he was poor. So when he got opportunity to eat and to taste a lot of those items, so he relished it. So again, he was like, okay, now if I could get someone to fan me, I want to sleep a little more. So immediately a lady appeared in the forest and she started fanning and massaging his feet and he fell asleep. By that time it was dark when he woke up. And he said, oh my God, I'm all alone in the jungle. What if lion comes? Immediately lion came and ate him up. Because that was wish fulfilling tree. Whatever you desire, it will come true. So we have to be very conscious about what we wish for, what we desire for. Because we think that maybe this thing, this person or this object is very beneficial for me. But Krishna knows the future. He knows if that person or that situation will uplift him in the path of goodness. So then he will provide us those facilities or make such arrangements so that we could associate with this and that company or person. But if we don't get our wish fulfilled, this is also Krishna's mercy. So, the story is in Hindi basically, and it says that kalp se sankalp shakti zyada zaruri hai, which means like desire, good desire is better than desires. Good desire, which is beneficial for our future, which is beneficial for our future by the means of our, I mean to say, jivatma or soul, and which are part and parcel of super soul. So whatever is good for the soul, super soul provides that. And when we hanker after this limited material sense enjoyments, some people they do it, and I'm not here to judge them, but they have limited taste. They will not last long. It depends upon they are limited, and the one who is digesting them is also limited. For an example, a bottle of wine, that is limited. And one who is digesting them, the body, it also has expiry date. So at one point, one may not be able to drink or dance in the parties, late night, waking up till late at night. It won't be possible for so long. So one must hanker for the permanent solution. Here we can read about, he was a king. And king in past, they used to have, how would I say, they used to have rishis in their kingdom who used to give them nice advice. So he must be having nice advisors in his kingdom. Still, he got so attached to that woman, wife of his, that he was thinking of her continuously. So you never know, like how Maya gonna trick us. Because he was a king, obviously he was a warrior. He knew how to fight. He knew all the politics. He knew how to control people. He was, he had those qualities. He must be having, good advisors with him. But still, he fell for her. He fell for her. And that was the main thing that he remembered. So let's understand it in this way as well. For an example, if one drinks too much, so what will he be called? A drunkard. Alcoholic. Yeah. And if one parties too much, he will be called party animal. So the person who is drinking or who is doing party or who is doing something, or someone has spent most of his time in doing art, is known as artist. So that doesn't mean he doesn't take shower, he doesn't eat. He eats and takes shower, he talks, he walks, he sleeps, he takes rest, everything he does. But most of the time of his life is meant for that one particular thing. So he will be known as that person, that person. If someone, invests most of his life, most of his years of his life in the lab, and discovering new things and new theories, he will be known as scientist. So, living in the society, having a family, loving, your wife or your husband is not wrong, but too much, that is, that alerts, that is a danger zone, I would say. That is little bit, it is not very healthy for human growth. We can understand it by the example that if there is too much salt in the sabzi, we cannot relish it. Though it is Krishna Prasadam, what we'll say, thank you Krishna for this prasadam, but aside. Too much salt? No. When it is too much, then problem occurs. Most of the cases in divorce, what they give the common reason, he doesn't give me much time. So when it is too less, that is also a problem. When it is much more, that is also a problem. And there are some cases in which one partner has said, like, he gives me too much space, and I don't like it. So too much space is also a problem. Very less is also a problem. So one has to balance. If one balances that, then he can be growing in his spiritual path as well as he can fulfill all his material needs. There's a difference between needs and desires. So Krishna fulfilled needs. Desires are uncontrollable. We see, we hear from media, from internet, like that multi-billionaire committed suicide, or that famous artist, he is going through a therapy. These people, they have their land on the moon, but still they are committing suicide. So what is it that is lacking in their lifestyle? The balance. Krishna maintains the balance of this nature. That's what is going on. When, it is said, like, when Krishna, when Krishna do his eyes slightly, when he twists his eyes, or I don't know what is the proper phrase in English, but when Krishna do like this, so pralaya comes like that. So when the balance is affected like that, like this, balance comes. And when it is like that, equally balanced, everything is working fine. So here, this king, King Puranjana, he did this mistake that he was attached to his wife, but too much. And we can think and analyze in our own sadhana that, let's say, if we are going through distress, or someone didn't like us, or there are some hardships or hard feelings going on in our mind, do we say alas or do we say Krishna? If we say alas, oh, arey, ye kya ho gaya? What's going on? So that means the first thought is not of God, which comes to our mind. Let's say if we saw a snake here, we'll say ah, or we say Hari Bol. We will. I mean, there are some who will say oh, and there are some who will say Hari Bol. So at the time of death, we never know which is what experience it would be. Could it be painful? Could be you never know. Like just soul got out from your body. Like you never know. So this is a one-time experience. I don't know if it is true or not. There was a scientist in Germany, and he wanted to taste poison. So what he did, he took some poison on his tongue, and he wanted to write. So he was just able to write one letter of that word S, and he died. So S, sweet, S, sour, salty, soury, what? So this is like, he gave up his life for this, for his passion, but the passion is not fulfilled. So at the time of death, we never know, like what experience it would be. It is just one experience for one life. So we must be very prepared for it. Otherwise, we might also fall in the pit as King Puranjana is falling now. He became a queen, and she will be protected. She will not have her own desires. I mean, she won't be able to go, roam around free. Because in those days, the condition of ladies were different than of a man. Like now, things are, have changed very much. But from a ferocious king, now he is down to a lady. So this is the motto of today's class, that please think wisely before wishing, and analyze what thoughts come to your mind before they capture it, and you will be known by them. Oh, he is like that. So we have to make balance between our sadhana, our spiritual development, and our material life as well. Then only we can balance both of them, and we can live peacefully, and we can leave this world peacefully by chanting Lord Hari's name, the name of Krishna, the name of Govinda, the protector of cows, and the name of Gopi Janvallabha, the Cupid of damsels of Vrindavan. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Yes,
You were talking about need and want. It's two different things. Maybe we can consider it's need or greed. Those are two
Need and
words to
greed. Yes.
choose from. Need and greed.
Perfect. Yes.
Everybody knows greed.
Yeah.
We live in the world of greed.
Yes.
So a lot of people are operating on that motto,
Mm.
that theme.
So, Maharaj, I have a question. You mentioned about need and greed. So, like we are in this Western country right now, or even in India, how can we judge, right? Because there is no end to earning money, right? So how can we judge in our spiritual life that okay, we have made enough, right? We
not be greedy and call it a day? Or should we keep working? Because sometimes we see in a Krishna ISKCON community, people take retirement and they give their life and they start preaching, right? So, what do you suggest, and how do you make out a difference? Like, when is the time to just say, okay,
When is the time to renounce?
not relax,
Renounce.
renounce, yeah. Renounce in a way to, like, say, suppose if you have made enough that you can start preaching or serving more or whatever service you like doing, you know. So, like, giving more time to Krishna consciousness.
Well, the way Prabhupada put it is, you take what you need to keep body and soul together. And when people go into their retirement or something like that, it's always wise, like according to Goswamis, to have some funds to set aside for emergency sake. So that's another, what should I say, is that not gauge, but a determining factor. And, where's the line drawn between need and greed? Well, I think you should be wise enough to know. And, that's the beautiful thing about Krishna consciousness and cultivating the mode of goodness. You learn to be discreet, to use discretion, use common sense. A lot of people lack common sense today due to the distractions, due to the intoxication and excess sex and all those things. They lose their common sense. They get very confused and they're very lost on very simple matters. They're lost. I'm not. What should I do? They're like in that mode, and it's very sad that that's the way it is. A lot of people lack a clear head because they're just so toxic. Their lifestyle's so toxic, and I see it happening more and more and more. The increase in the confusion in today's world. And when you look at some communities or societies or even nations where there's discipline that comes, these are the people that are kind of like seem to use common sense. They've got parameters in which they work. They seem to be successful. They tend to conquer. They tend to own. They tend to just take over. So it's the sense gratification that's really destroying people. This contact of the sense of indriya with the vishaya, sense objects, which we are so much encouraged to do in the pop culture. So whether it's here in the West, everybody wants to do that. They all want to be like that. I go to South Africa and, it's cool to speak like an African American, not a South African American. South African African. Does that make sense? So they're leading the world, but that's changing. That's changing. That's just the power shifting somewhere else. But we need to look at the communities that are more disciplined, they're really into family, that kind of thing. They're in, they know how to manage nicely.
Yeah.
They plan. There's funds available. They're into community. Like yesterday, I went to a funeral. It was so nice because the lady, the Punjabi lady, she lived a full life. We're hearing the speeches of all of her friends and family. And she had a good life. She did 16 rounds every day. Just good life. Nobody was really bawling their eyes out because it was like a perfect passing. It wasn't like a tragedy, like a little kid getting hit by a car or something like that, where everyone mourns and they question how could this be. So, in that case, the community there is very settled. And so I think we have to kind of explore, we have to observe, make some observations, and not get caught up in this lack of control of the senses. So make some observations. Look at the people that are successful and copy them. Krishna states in the Gita, many persons have become purified by knowledge of me. So they kind of follow in the footsteps of those who are successful. So every day we sit down and we read about the sadhus and we read about the kings, the pious kings. By the way, it's not just good enough to be a rich person, but a pious rich person is different. And that distinction has to be made. Piety is so important, punya. You know, there has to be, and it's unfortunate that religion is bashed so much by people, by the secular world. But if you take spirituality or religion out of the equation, you're just going to fall apart. That's what's happening right now. You're having morals, just anything goes, anything's okay. You're a guy today, you're a girl tomorrow, and it's all okay. It's not okay. It's not the way God has wired us to be.
Yeah.
So common sense comes from good practices, good sadhana. Hare Krishna.
Any questions or comments?
Yes, like you mentioned, the taste of the food is good when the ingredients are very delicious. In his life, he was attached with his wife because his wife was a very good lady, very obedient wife. So when things in our life are favorable, the parameters of attachment will not change. And when things are not favorable, that's the time when we get closer to the Lord. When the food is not tasty, that's where we just eat very little, not too much. So, and should it be really balanced or little imbalanced to get closer to the Lord?
Okay, first, we have to set our priority. Like, are we in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, in the preface, Srila Prabhupada writes about Sanatana Dharma. What is Sanatana Dharma? That Sanatana Dharma is a duty of every jiva, of every soul, is to know that he is meant to serve the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, as I said, if the food is too salty, you cannot eat it. Or you said, we can eat it little, but will that be enough for your hunger? No. You will still be hungry. You need a perfect, balanced food to quench your thirst, to feed your stomach. So, by balancing, we can understand it in the modern world also, when it is like, when you are not giving enough space to someone and you're so attached, that person is gonna go away from you. I don't know if it is relevant here or not, but everyone has his own or her own dignity, right? So too much attachment is not good for you in the material world. Too much attachment. We must respect each other, we must give space, we must give time, but a perfect balanced life is required for the sadhaka, for the trainer who is going to start his journey towards back to Godhead. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I was watching you.
Yeah.
Where is the border between too much attachment and just attachment to the family, to wife?
Well, it depends. If you are you are serving your family from your body, from your feelings, but if you're continuously thinking about them and your sadhana, your chanting is getting affected by that. I have to take her to the shopping, my kids need me, and you miss Bhagavatam. So there something is lacking.
Let's just like to add something. So you're attached to family, but if you see the family as Krishna's children, then it's different. She turns everything around.
Yes.
You may have a lot of affection for them, if you realize they're not yours, they're Krishna's, and they're for you to look after.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of what's the right propriety here, or property. It's Krishna's property, and you have to look at them and take care of them, love them. They're objects of affection.
Yes.
Yeah, I think one point Prabhupada also mentioned that the kids who are born now from devotees, they are from Vaikuntha also. So, anyways, if you're serving and helping them grow in Krishna consciousness, right? So that's also serving Krishna because you're serving a devotee, right? So in that way, like Maharaj mentioned, and one more point I'll mention, it's a example, incident happened in India. So when I was in India, one devotee, because he was very new and also new to Krishna conscious. So his son was born. So when he declared the news, so he said in Hindi that it's Bhagwan's prasad. I couldn't understand what he meant at that time, but his consciousness was so developed, even he was like 1 year in Krishna consciousness. He related everything, like even though he had a son, he said it's the Krishna's prasad that I got. Right? So if that way you look everything as Krishna's mercy and prasad, then everything, see, Krishna consciousness is not always just chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? You have to go out also to preach people, right? You have to cook sometimes, you have to clean sometimes, right? So everything is seva. Yeah, foremost is for sure, chanting your minimum 16 rounds, that's what Prabhupada recommended. But after that, like if you serve devotees, like there are so many devotees, if we are serving prasadam, that's Krishna conscious, right? Similarly, family is Krishna conscious, right? Like Maharaj mentioned in Rupa Goswami's, mentioned about like whatever money you're spending in your household activities, that is also money. It's not always you giving to temple. That's donation, because you're maintaining your household activity, wife, kids, right? How will they grow? That's your responsibility, right? So that's also Krishna consciousness, right?
What means Krishna consciousness, I understand.
Yeah.
And thank you, Maharaj, for all the explanation. So, when
No, that's okay. I know you're.
so I asked about the border between too much attachment and just attachment. How to think, how to understand the
You just have to have the right
balance.
perspective. Right perspective. Who are they? Who do they really belong to? I think that's really the determining factor.
One little point that I could add there, from like a psychology perspective and Krishna conscious perspective, if you're so attached that anything about them makes you anxious, makes you worrisome, even if it's slightest of things, that means your Krishna consciousness, that look at it like a balancing beam, like this side is your attachment and this side is your Krishna consciousness. For example, if you're getting very anxious about them, there's secure attachment, there's insecure attachment. So the moment you get insecure about them, that is when you cross the border and go into the other side. But if you're secure with them, you believe it's Krishna's plan, everything's happening, they're Krishna's given. This is like the one little thing I like to it.
Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
jai. Vancha